Thank you to those who edited the audio in this video. My username is immaterial, Ziggy9522, and Lewis of Singlehoffer FIM1314.
Hello everybody, this is ExplosiveBrohoof, and I am here with Multi-Fanfic-A-Day, and we are going to be reading Just Words by Device Heretic, one of my favorite authors.
Cool. I always think of it as Device Heretic. It says Heretic!
Yeah, it is Heretic. I
Yay!
just pronounce it wrong every single time.
Yeah. Device
Alright,
Heretic.
so I'm going to be doing the voices, and Multi-Fanfic-A-Day is going to be doing the narrations.
Yep.
Alright.
Yeah.
So, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Princess Celestia paused momentarily as the guards outside her study began shouting. They were guards. Shouting is more or less what they are for, when all was said and done. The truth, painful as it was to admit, was that she was old. Although she preferred, on the overall, to say that she had been around for a long time, and over the centuries she'd gotten quite good at telling one sort of shouting from another. There was, for example, the brief bark of alarm at a toy under hoof in the night, or, in contrast, the long, drawn-out wail of an ongoing peril, like going over a waterfall, or being chased by a gigantic, out-of-control chicken. Life in Equestria was strange and exciting, and there was a lot to notice. Every day, it seemed she was struck with something new to observe and catalog in the vast repository of her memory. This shouting, however, was familiar, and to be perfectly honest, not entirely unwelcome. The guards were shouting, but in the strange, half-hearted way that suggests they were doing so more in the hopes that they wouldn't be suspected of unwilling to do so later than because they thought it would have any effect whatsoever. There was no anger or reckless defiance in their voices, as you might hear if they were, say, standing proud before an overpowering foe. No. These were the shouts of guards who weren't entirely sure they knew what they were supposed to do. The princess had given orders that she wasn't to be disturbed this evening, but, on the other hoof... Celestia smiled. On the other hoof, there was nothing like Twilight Sparkle stomping at them to get the guards nervous. It was bad enough that they had saluted her brother every time we walked past, but heavens alone knew what was going on to get her angry enough to demand an audience with the princess. Celestia resumed reading, somewhat tedious report on the Griffin Court politics, and waited for her doors to slam open. Only when they did, and after Celestia took a little private moment of pride in the tremendous surge of power she felt from her most faithless student, did she look up.
Good evening, Twilight,
she said, with every appearance of pleasure.
You seem to have dislodged my paintings.
Twilight stood in the doorway, panting furiously. Behind her, two guards gave Celestia sheepish grins of apology, and indeed the paintings on the wall now hung crooked on their hangers.
Oh, don't good evening me,
Twilight roared, but her horn lit, and the paintings behind her righted themselves. She stomped forward, the door slamming shut behind her.
It's been a terrible evening. I'm sorry to hear that, of course.
Celestia said, pushing the scroll from her agent at the aside?
Irie.
What is that? Irie. At the Irie aside, and patting the ground next to her before the fireplace. She raised an eyebrow when Twilight stood her ground, but continued.
I know you are looking forward to this evening's little get-together. You get to see your family so rarely. That's just it! Twilight moaned.
Ha!
Oh, I'm sorry. That was supposed
Twilight
to be
moaned. Celestia's heart froze, but long practice kept her face as pleasant as it had been when Twilight had entered.
What's just it, Twilight?
Twilight's eyes blazed with indignant rage.
They're not my family!
Celestia opened her mouth to speak. Please. Oh, you should do this.
Alright. Please. Someday she'll need to learn the truth, but only when she's ready.
And closed it again, sighing heavily.
She
said.
You found out then?
Twilight recoiled.
You knew? You knew I was adopted?
Celestia closed her eyes, knowing very well that she was about to say what would be just about as bitter as a pill as there was to swallow.
Of course I did, Twilight. I talked to your parents about it when... They're not my parents!
Twilight raged, but she quickly mastered herself, closing her eyes and mouth tight, giving off a strained, angry sound of stifled words she knew better than to say. After a moment, she sighed and turned away from Celestia.
I'm glad you have the presence of mind not to say too many foolish and impulsive things to me,
Celestia said, not entirely pleasantly.
But since I'll have to replace at least one hinge on my doors, I suspect I am getting the tail end of your reaction to the news.
Twilight was silent for a while, staring the princess down as best she could, which was to say, not at all. She was deflated a little bit, now that her fury had broken on the sea wall of Celestia's calm. Celestia patted the ground next to her again, and gave Twilight a very small smile. The unicorn trotted up next to her mentor, and snuggled up against the warm white bulk, as if it were 2 decades earlier, and she was a filly again. There were some things that would humble even some pony, as proud and mature as Twilight generally was after all. The princess hummed at the princess hummed at the touch, and draped a wing over Twilight gently.
How did you find out, Twilight?
She whispered.
Shining Armor got drunk.
Twilight sulked. She laid her head down and began scraping her hoof back and forth across the rich carpeting in front of the fireplace, apparently fascinated by the way the fine woven patterns moved when she did so.
Cadence told us she was pregnant, and she was laughing with my dad, like, "Oh yeah, I had such a good example from you, Dad, although, you adopted Twily when I was 5, or something like that."
Twilight huffed.
I suppose you knew about Cadence already, too. Well, to be perfectly honest, I was the one who told her she was pregnant, so, yes, I did.
Celestia said, chuckling. Twilight huffed out something that might have been a bitter laugh, but otherwise didn't react.
Well, you know how it is, Twilight. She was visiting Luna, and I happened to sense the life growing in her, and asked if she'd been to the doctor lately. A grandful for for them. A real grandful.
Twilight said bitterly.
Not that I'm in such a place to have foals anyways. Spike will lay an egg himself before I find some pony to settle down with, I swear.
Celestia shrugged.
Stranger things have happened. Giant chickens, for example. I know when some pony's trying to humor me, Princess. Not now, okay?
Twilight grumbled. She ran her hooves through the fine carpeting a couple more times, huffing. The princess cocked her head slightly.
What did they say to you?
Twilight raised her head, having the grace to appear a little guilty.
I didn't give them a lot of time to say much. They confirmed it was true, and then I started shouting.
She turned to Celestia, her face a portrait of misery.
Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? It wasn't my place to... Oh, don't give me that!
Twilight snarled, rising to her hooves, shrugging off the gentle embrace of Celestia's wing. She began pacing back and forth before the fireplace.
Of any pony, I could have taken this from you.
Celestia said nothing. Twilight prowled back and forth, muttering half-sentences and expletives under her breath.
At least from you it would have been removed from things,
Twilight said, eventually. Celestia raised an eyebrow.
I'm not sure I'm happy to know that you would want to hear unpleasant news from me. It's just an unfortunate trend. I put up enough hardship on you as it is, in the years we've worked together.
Twilight gave the princess a sour look over her shoulder.
That's not what I said. No, it's what I'm saying, Twilight.
Celestia replied, waving a hoof irritably.
I care about you very much. You've always been my friend, as well as my student. You know that. But ever since you went to Ponyville, our relationship has been strained. I can't just pull you away from your studies for a meal alone together now and again, or bring tea to the tower unannounced. Sometimes I worry that all that's been left to us has been the work and the huge responsibilities I trusted you with. I don't want my voice to become the taskmistress's, Twilight. I really don't.
Silence.
I'm sorry,
Twilight whispered, staring out a window.
Thank you for saying so,
Celestia said, a little more gently.
I did not like keeping this a secret from you, but I respected that your parents had a right to tell you when they thought the time was right.
Twilight turned, a harsh rebuttal on her tongue, but Celestia cut her off with a severe frown.
If you even dream of saying something foolish like, "They're not my real parents," Twilight, I will be extremely disappointed with you. But they're not,
Twilight said. She was trying not to whine. Celestia could tell, but the painful moan of denial leaked in along the seams of her self-control, sweating from every pore that the little statement had. Celestia sighed, but a productive thought occurred to her.
Twilight, breathe with me. What?
Twilight turned, her expression disbelieving.
What? Like, when I was a Precisely. Now lie here. There you are.
Celestia gave Twilight's reluctant frown a bright smile, just as she had that very first lesson, out on the veranda.
Close your eyes with me. In and out.
In and out. In and out. Celestia opened her eyes and looked over Twilight's features. It seemed that her teacher's voice still had some sway. Twilight was dutifully focusing on the exercise, and the lines of stress that had made her poor student look careworn and hurt were nowhere to be seen. A tear fell, though. What are you typing?
I'm typing to my friend.
Okay. Instinct prodded Celestia, and for once, she didn't even consider resisting. As her hoof ran along Twilight's cheek, wiping away a tear, the unicorn whined in the back of her throat and sniffed.
I'm so sorry. You weren't ready to hear this yet. Certainly not from my stupid from Shining Armor, when he's drunk.
Twilight sniffled again.
I love them so much. They've always been... They were my parents. But...
Celestia consciously let the silence after Twilight trailed off linger for a while, since doing so would make her point without the necessity of actually speaking.
But what? It hurts to think that I'm not really their... I'm sorry, that's Twilight. It hurts to think I'm not really their little filly.
Twilight finished lamely. She looked away from Celestia, who smiled in a not very amused sort of way.
That I'm not really their... Not to be rude, Twilight,
Celestia said, putting a hoof on one of Twilight's.
But that is not what's bothering you at all. You know better than that. Do I?
Celestia sighed, but her expression quickly recovered in a slightly mischievous grin.
I hope so. If you really think, and forgive me this, please, if you really think the measure of who is truly your family has to do... If you really think the measure of who is truly your family has to do with which mare had the privilege of squeezing you out between the thighs...
The princess laughed as Twilight's face screwed up in alarm.
Ew! What? You see? That's my point.
Celestia said, raising a hoof to her mouth to stifle her giggles.
We are more than the simple realities of biology, Twilight. Ponies are social creatures. We welcome others into our families by choice all the time. For example, Cadence is part of your family now, isn't she?
Twilight just nodded.
But the truth, and please forgive my presumption, is that marrying Shining Armor just made it legal. She was already part of your family. Yours, Twilight Sparkles, specifically. She was your big sister before she was ever your sister-in-law. Just like Rarity is Sweetie Belle's. That you are not yourself also Luna's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter is irrelevant to the reality of the love you two share. That is my understanding. Always. More or less.
Twilight murmured?
Is the background noise too much?
No, it's just that Luna's great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter. I don't get that. That you are not yourself.
Twilight is distantly related to Luna.
What? But I thought she was directly related or something. I'm confused. Maybe. So, who are her real parents? I think I missed that.
I don't know yet.
Oh.
We'll find out.
Oh.
more or less.
This is confusing. You already read that. Skip in. No, you were at not that I'd say to her face.
Fine. Not that I'd say that to her face. That's a one-way trip to Awkward City.
Celestia smiled.
I appreciate that it's a little difficult to phrase well, yes. Right. I appreciate that it's a little difficult to phrase well, yes. But as you are aware, Twilight, it was once much more common to say that sort of thing between friends. When I was young, your age, relatively speaking, I was adopted into one of the great unicorn clans of the time, and so was Luna. We're not actually sisters, of course, but since we weren't born in the conventional sense, we are clan sisters.
Oh.
I had hundreds of clan siblings, most of whom were totally unrelated to one another by blood. That's how things were then. And we were all one big group, you see. One big family.
Twilight frowned.
I've read about that. I guess I didn't think that's what you and Luna meant by No, Twilight. Luna is my sister. She has been my friend, yes, my clan sister, for centuries. We have walked many roads together, and many paths apart, only to come together again. So we are sisters, by choice. That she and I do not share at least a parent is irrelevant. What I was getting at is that customs about what your family is and is not change over time, and more importantly, are ultimately decided by you, personally. I have been fortunate to experience this phenomenon for myself over life. Look, I see where you're going with this,
Twilight said. She rolled her eyes and put a sarcastic sing-song tone in her voice.
Yes! Twilight, Twinkle, and Nightlight, and Shining Armor have always loved me, and in fact, chose to love me as if I were their own daughter. I should be grateful they're actually my real family, and I'm not acknowledging their sacrifices for some pony they didn't have. Well, I plan to stop there, certainly, but mostly on the way to somewhere else.
Huh. Celestia gave her favorite student a very wry look.
As you so elegantly expressed, it's not very satisfying to you, and would be more than a little condescending of me to say at you, I think, since I doubt you care to hear it.
Twilight huffed through a grin.
You might say that, yeah. But that's what I'm getting at, Twilight. You don't actually feel disconnected from them at all. Now, even though you feel like you ought to.
Celestia reached out and pressed her hoof against Twilight's chest, smiling as the unicorn clutched it gratefully.
It's the betrayal, the sudden knowledge that tempts you to reevaluate everything, even though there's really nothing that requires it. You know they love you, and you love them. That's all that matters. It is a hurt. It changes some things, yes, but not the underlying truth.
Twilight stared at her, peering deep into the princess's eyes, as if hoping to read some secret message in their depths, searching for some hint that Celestia wasn't being completely straightforward with her. It occurred to Celestia that Twilight might have learned this little game from the princess herself, and that it might work on some random pony pulled off a street. But the plain truth of it was that Twilight would have to get up pretty early in the morning to get one over on Celestia. She might as well not go to sleep in the first place. This was Celestia's game. She owned the board, the pieces, and the rules. Twilight saw only a gentle, loving smile. A genuine one, but still. That's all there was. 1,000 years of composure shows you only what it wants you to see. Celestia passed the time reflecting on how Twilight's eyes were so like her own. Something she'd always found pleasant. Finally, Twilight sighed.
What happened to the days when you would just hold me in your wings and let me scream and yell and be angry and then, I don't know, solve everything with a neat phrase?
The princess pursed her lips.
You turned 13?
To her relief, this got a laugh out of Twilight. A little bitter, yes, but a real laugh of genuine amusement.
Yeah, I guess. If you want me to lie to you and say that this is a simple thing that will just go away after a week or so, like the time you pre-ordered a copy of Daring Do in the Last Canyon, was claimed by some pony who had stolen your reservation slip? Well, I won't do it.
Celestia chuckled and reached out with the hoof on Twilight's chest, gently tugging on Twilight so that the unicorn scooted forward into a loving embrace.
I don't... Twilight, I know this will be hard for you. It will change the rest of your life, obviously. I hope only insofar as you know this fact, and accept that it changes very little. But even that is something. I was going to say, I know the things you said are probably right, but they're not what I want to hear.
Hold on. I lost my spot. Twilight said, nuzzling Celestia's neck. It was a very foal-like thing to do, but Twilight was very hurt, after all. And Celestia admired the unicorn's courage in displaying this hurt so openly, and further felt a little thrill of pride burn in her chest, as the trust it implied. Celestia bent down and gently kissed Twilight's forehead.
If this had happened when you were younger, I would have been a little less confrontational. But you are a grown man, and you know very well that the hurt will stop when the wound is treated. Not by being told that it looks like it hurts a lot.
Twilight reached up with her forehooves, sniffling and clutching herself tightly to Celestia.
Thanks. Take you and I, for example.
Celestia said.
Am I your friend? Your mentor? And what are you to me? Merely a friend? Merely a student? You are my...
And then there's a pause, and I'm not sure what's going on here, but it's all in italics.
This is more like...
I cannot keep her. Nightlight frown. What is this?
This is a memory, I think.
Okay.
I cannot keep her.
Nightlight frowns.
Oh, what? Why not?
But he doesn't really understand what I just said. Not completely. His wife does. The mare who, in a happier world, would have been my precious daughter's aunt, and now dead father's sister, understands my intent. It is something communicated in the glances, or their absence, in the way I arrived in the dead of the night, accompanied by no pony. Twilight Twinkle stares at me, and I can tell that somewhere deep down, even her great-heartedness is unwilling to forgive me for what I am doing. She is a traditional mare, in her way, and she has an old-fashioned idea, or old-fashioned ideas, even to my mind. Impractical ideas. Ideas that, for all their pretense, towards nobility and gentility? Yeah, gentility.
Gentility?
Gentility. No, there's only one N. Gentility, I think.
There's no... Oh, wait, there's one N. Okay, keep going.
Are inconvenient and will cause more hurt in the end than even she realizes. That's fine. I have endured the hatred of beings she cannot even comprehend. And yet, that my old friend feels me pathetic grates me more than the raw, bloodthirsty rage of Discord at his worst, or the imperious, dreadful malice of Nightmare Moon. It is not a blow to be deflected. It is a sting, a rash, an irritant, a reminder that for all my power, tonight she finds me weak and small. I can see it in her eyes. A mother, pressed by circumstance, may be right to give her foal into the care of those more able. But no mare should try to exile a foal from her life, as if she never existed. But I am doing it for her. I loved her father. Perhaps only young Shining Armor loved his uncle as much as I. I have known many loves over my long life, but this was one tainted by inevitable tragedy. I should have shut my heart to him, but he was so kind, so gentle, so giving, even in his last days. A true paragon. I knew, we all knew, that his illness was going to take a good pony from the world well before his just time, and I could not bear to think he would go into the fields beyond the waking eye without leaving something of himself for me to hold and love. And so I broke my ancient vow, made in the hopes of preventing more arguments and bloodlines and unicorn aristocracy than there already were, and allowed myself to become pregnant. Is this Celestia? Who is?
I think so.
Okay. I was so foolish. I let myself hope. And hope is the first step on the path to disappointment. When I made the decision, I thought, things will be all right. Yes, my foal will lose her father early on, but she'll know him long enough to know he was good and strong and noble, and loved her. She'll have many years with him, a decade at least. So long as my daughter lives, I will curse the winter. I will curse the bitter northern wind and the sickness it blew into my beloved's vulnerable lungs, snuffing out those last few precious years. I said few precious. Those last few precious years, stealing him from us as his daughter still grew within me. Our beautiful daughter, Twilight Sparkle. I turned to Nightlight, trying to convey, with a half-hearted smile, a reluctance I do not feel.
I am the princess of this. Wait, actually, I need to swallow first, but... Okay, the delicacy scene is pretty much over, so let's try this one more time, because that was a loud scene.
Now it's way better. Go.
Alright, I swallowed, so...
Hey. Go! Oh, fine. I turned to Nightlight, trying to convey with a half-hearted smile a reluctance I do not feel.
Well, then people are going to be
God!
confused as to why you're so...
No! Stop! I turned to Nightlight, trying to convey with a half-hearted smile a reluctance I do not feel.
I am the princess of the sun, monarch of Equestria. I cannot provide for Twilight the way she deserves. I cannot be the mother she needs. You have been absolutely ridiculous about this whole affair, Celestia.
Twinkle snarls. I pause, shocked. It is the first time she has spoken to me since her brother died 6 months ago. Hate is never something I ever thought I'd hear on the tongue of Twilight Twinkle, and certainly not being directed at me. Not anger, not peevishness or anxiety. Hate. Deep and abiding, permanent. A grudge nursed over the years, unspoken. Like wine, it had grown rich and intoxicating over years of being hidden away. She waves a hoof irritably.
Hiding your pregnancy. Hiding your relationship with my brother. I can't imagine you don't know he wanted to marry you so very badly because he loved you. I do.
I snap.
I know very well, and...
I hesitate. Should I tell her? Will it serve any purpose but to hurt every pony myself, not least among them? But I am spared the decision.
You did it.
Twilight snarls.
Tell me that even you would not be so foolish, so vain, as to marry a pony lying on his deathbed.
I say nothing, but that itself is a response. Yes! Success! Okay. Twilight leans over the table. Twinkle leans over the table, glaring at me as if I am the most worthless, pathetic creature she has ever seen.
You disgust me. It is only for the sake of that poor foal in the next room that I don't throw you out of my house this instant.
Humiliation. I'm being talked down by a mere 30-year-old. It must be something about the family. He could always render me speechless, too. I wonder if Twilight will... But no. Of course she won't. That's the point. I sigh.
What should I have done, Twilight Twinkle? As your brother lay there dying, should I have denied him this last little token of my love? You should have married him years ago.
Twilight roars, slamming a hoof on the table.
I regret so much introducing him to you. He saved our lives that first night. Both of us. You and I, and you lost him. In the end, lost it mooning after a dream, where the two of you are happy together openly. And the worst for me is that even that was a dream for you, Celestia. He thought you were lonely on your throne, and all he wanted was to make you feel loved.
She narrows her eyes and sneers.
Idiot Colt. He always was. But you're worse. for taking advantage of some pony who didn't let himself see that you were just humoring him.
I cannot help myself. I lose my temper for the first time in a century and a half.
How dare you say that to me, you ungrateful little filly? I loved your brother. I was protecting him, keeping him away from the wretched aristocrats I had to tolerate all the time. Do you truly believe I enjoyed disappointing him? I should... Mom? Auntie Lestia? What's going on?
We freeze, and as one pony turns toward the little colt's voice, I don't know yet how strong and proud he'll grow to be in time. His uncle all over again, blessing Equestria with a quiet, humble nobility that is all too rare in this sleeping age. For now, he is still a gangly little creature, awkward on his hooves at 5. Twilight spares me one last look of pure disgust before turning a bright smile on her son.
We'll see about the auntie, Shining. Now, off to bed. Mommy and Daddy have a lot they need to talk to the princess about.
Shining Armor's little brow furrows.
Don't yell. It's not nice,
he declares. Aw, so cute. With that, he turns and marches back to his room, proud as a prince. I cannot help but laugh, but it dies quickly under the baleful gaze of Twilight Twinkle. Nightlight enters. Shh! Izzy, if you're going to listen in on my reads, be quiet. Nightlight clears his throat nervously.
I'm still not sure I understand, Princess. Surely... Wait, Nightlight. Yeah, okay. I'm still not sure I understand, Princess. Surely you have more than enough. What I don't have enough of is time.
I say, pointedly ignoring his wife's loathing stare.
You've met my relatives. That cult, Blue Blood.
I shake my head.
I love my daughter. I don't want her to grow up pampered, waited upon, a society creature. Then you shouldn't have had her. Twinkle
sniffs. I literally bite my tongue. I taste blood in my mouth.
That filly, Cadence, she seems good enough,
Nightlight says thoughtfully.
Shining was playing with her all afternoon the other day. Mia More Cadenza is not typical, for more than the immediately obvious reasons. Still, I think you'd be a fine
I try to smile at Nightlight, who is nervously glancing at his wife.
Any association with me, any attachment, makes Twilight Sparkle a target for ponies who will try to exploit her, who will try to use her to get to me, or take advantage of her. Now, I don't mean to be rude to say this, but who's going to try to take advantage of a bookseller's daughter?
Nightlight asks, grinning.
I think I see now. Thank you,
I say. I almost mean it. In the next room, Twilight Sparkle starts crying. I immediately regret not getting to my hooves instantly. I should have. I want to. So why don't I? Twilight Twinkle does. She rises from the table and begins to walk into the next room and pauses on the threshold.
Ask me,
she says, simply over the wails of the foal.
Twinkle, honey, we really should talk this over with Shining. Like, I love you. But you need to shut up, now.
She turns, glaring at me.
Say it.
I feel myself swallow. Swallow. Why is this so easy?
Twilight Twinkle, Nightlight,
I say, looking to each of them in turn. Twilight Twinkle stares me down. Nightlight looks worried.
Please raise my daughter, your niece, as your own foal. I cannot... Spare me your damn speeches. Of course we'll take her,
Twinkle says, snarling.
I wouldn't let you walk out of here with my brother's daughter if it killed me. Now get out of my house, and don't you dare darken my doorway again. I curse the day I met you. I regret ever calling you my friend. Get out.
I rise, stiffly, breathing in and out, carefully, to calm myself. Nightlight accompanies me to the door. We walk silently, but he steps out with me onto the street, closing the door behind him.
She's taking his death pretty hard,
he says. He's trying to be nice, play peacemaker, but he lacks the capacity for deep understanding necessary to play that role between two proud matrons.
We all are. Forgive me for disturbing the peace of your household, Nightlight.
Yeah, I mutter, the old politeness reflexively, 300 years out of date. Damn it! Shut up, Finding Nemo! It confuses the young stallion. Dumb as a box of hammers, Twinkle used to say. But at least he's good looking. But that's her way sometimes, being a bit unkind in her sarcasm. At worst, he's oblivious and can't read the mood, which are forgivable flaws. Innocent flaws. But it's astounding how badly I wish he didn't have them right now!
Oh, it's always a pleasure,
he says, trying to be polite. I give him a hollow smile and turn, wings spreading.
She'll be happy here. I promise.
I freeze.
What should we tell her? I mean, I know it'll be a little while, but tell her what I hope you will come to consider the truth, Nightlight. Tell her she's yours,
I say. The words flow out of my mouth. This is deep. The words flow out of my mouth, easy as water over smooth stone.
Tell her nothing of who her fat uncle was involved with. Make sure Shining understands what's expected of him. I'm glad I can trust he'll keep her happy, but
what? You immense, cowardly, disgusting, vile traitor of a mare.
Remember, I'm doing this for her.
I lie, and I know it.
Keep her safe.
Nightlight is silent for a very long time. Wait, but she is doing it for her, right? So she doesn't get exploited. I'm confused. Inside, Twilight Sparkle cries have ceased. My mind tortures itself with memories of her happy coos, which she now makes in the forehoofs of the pony who hates me the most in all Equestria, save perhaps the poor lost creature sealed in the moon for the last 900-odd years. I turn to Nightlight. He's lost in thought, possibly for the first time in his life. He's a gentle soul at heart, a good soul, reliable, dependable. Not the sharpest knife in any drawer, but
if she takes after her mother at all, I don't think that's how it works.
I begin, but he laughs.
No, not that. Not the wings. If she's like her mother or father, or for that matter, she'll wonder. Something will slip out and she'll notice. She'll be magical as all the stars themselves, I have no doubt. And there's always magic. And there's ways magic can whisper truth to you.
I am suddenly very, very desperate. I turn to him, pleading undoubtedly, naked on my face.
Please, someday she'll need to learn the truth. But only when she's ready.
And in that moment, I hope she is never ready. That I will never have to look my daughter in the face and watch as the truth dawns in her eyes, as the betrayal is laying naked before her. I try to compose myself.
Until that time, keep your promise.
Keep her happy. Happy ponies don't wonder. And with that, I fly away, intending never to hear about Twilight Sparkle in anything but retrospect. I do not know that in a few short years I will look out into a crowd and see my own eyes looking back up at me. I have not yet had the long argument with Twilight Twinkle, where a proud mother tells a reluctant monarch that there'll be much more suspicion if her daughter,
my daughter, Celestia, don't you dare forget it,
is denied entry to the academy than is risked by her allowing her in.
At least let her try. You owe her and her father much, much more than that.
I do not know the circumstances in which I will hold my beautiful, perfect daughter in my hooves for the first time since she was a newborn. I do not know that in that moment I will be unable to resist the need to reclaim what should have always been my entire life, even if only as my personal prodigy. Let Twinkle rage at me. I know her well enough to know that deep down, in that moment, she will want this too. She may hate me, but she loves Twilight Sparkle enough that she is unwilling to keep her away from me. I, who can give Twilight the world, teach her to build castles in the sky, even if I do so as her teacher, rather than her mother. I do not know the sublime joy I am going to feel, being the one to draw my daughter's attention to her brand new cutie mark, an experience every parent hopes just to be present for. I do not know how she will instantly steal my heart, be more intelligent and dutiful and devoted than I could have ever hoped or wished for. My most faithful student. I do not know that I will make her a hero, such that my beloved Equestria will never again know a time when the effects of her life won't be felt. But in that moment, I know for the very first time that the shame and humiliation that will hammer me every time I read the words, "Dear Princess Celestia," knowing that in a better, happier, all too easy imagined world, they simply read, "Dear Mom."
Am I your what?
Twilight asked, without furrowing. Celestia blinked.
Oh.
She said, shaking her head.
Well, there you are, Twilight. Are you my... what? They're all just words. Friend, teacher. I've been holding both to you. Sometimes more one than the other. Just words. Getting in the way of the truth. That we all love each other.
Twilight just smiled and cuddled into the welcoming embrace of the princess. Celestia squeezed her gently. Friends. Teacher, student, mentor and prodigy, mother and daughter.
Just words.
Celestia murmured. I like how it's not said. It says Celestia murmured, and that's the last phrase. That's really cool. God damn it, Finding Nemo. Why do you have to be so interruptible? So yeah, that was pretty epic.
Yeah, sorry.
Whoa.
I have Finding Nemo in the back.
I understand why you, needled me for a month to read this and all the other Defiance Heretic movies.
This wasn't the fanfiction I'm needling you to read.
There were several.
You to read Eternal.
Whatever. That one's too long. Okay,
No,
Izzy really wants me to
not
watch
too
this
long.
really long Frisbee throw.
It's brilliant and you should read it. This one was only made a few,
Dory is speaking well.
And Eternal's 7 times better than this, so...
That was actually pretty cool. So, what were you... Izzy saw Save Derpy and she was tripping. What did you want to say?
What? Oh. Oh, hey, do you mind if I add my friend to the call?
Uh-huh. You're confusing me. I'm not getting into this. It was cool. I don't know. It was a super long Frisbee throw. What was the one you... Well, you were needling me just about Device Heretic, this author. Shh. No, Izzy. No.
Yes, and he has a lot of fictions under 1,000 words.
Oh, dude. Oh,
Or under
oh my.
10,000.
Have you seen Nocturne?
Oh, I haven't read it yet.
I love that picture. Dude, it's Twilight Sparkle's cutie mark where there's blood splattered.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Whoa.
Okay, do you mind if I add my friend to the call? Or...
But it's only adventure. Oh, it's not dark. Oh, never mind. I don't care that much.
Well, it might change. He's really not into it that much.
It's on hiatus. Yes. On hiatus.
On hiatus. It's actually pronounced hiatus.
Whatever. I wouldn't know. Isn't that the same thing? It's just hiatus. Oh yeah.
Right, so you don't mind if I add my friend to the call, right?
If you add your friend to the call.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll all have stunning conversation.
Okay. Just start sending your audio to me.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to pause that. Okay.